Surrounded by miles and miles of quiet cornfields, I work for a small technical consulting firm. We have about 10 employees and the 2 owners. Most of us are usually on site with clients full-time. In some cases though we have in-house work/jobs that require us to work at the home office. My last off-site gig ended and I had to go to the home office. Home office is a gorgeous, completely updated building 50 miles out of the city in farm country set about a mile back on a huge hill with a long driveway which is the only way in and out. The building is mostly glass and the parking lot is right behind the building so I can literally turn around and see my car from where I sit. The office overlooks that driveway, so we can see anyone driving up. Mostly delivery guys. At first it was really peaceful being out here. I'm an early bird so it was a pleasant drive out in farm country. I didn't have to lock my car doors like I did when I worked downtown. I could gaze out my window at gorgeous green fields, but it could get lonely. Which is why when UPS would show up with a package, I'd jump up to meet the delivery guy at the door. Point being, I was hyper aware of when people showed up there and who was there. Some days I would be the only person in the office. Some days there were 3 or 4 other coworkers in between assignments or working on short, in-house work. One morning, it was just me and one other coworker here. This particular coworker and I would walk down the long driveway and back once a day to get some steps in. We did this particular morning and came back into the building. A few minutes later he looks over at me and says, "Look at our cars." We had only just walked past our cars a few minutes prior. Now all of the doors to our vehicles were open. All 4 doors on each of our vehicles. I hadn't heard a thing. No one had come up the driveway. The nearest farm was 12 miles away. My coworker couldn't have done it. He was sitting about 10 feet away from me the entire time. Someone had walked through miles of cornfields just to mess with our cars. Nothing had been stolen and my coworker had even left his iPad on his front seat. We looked around, closed the car doors, locked them and went back in the building. Locking the building, I lock my car doors now. And the door to the building is always locked whether I am here alone or not. Creeper in the cornfield. This just happened tonight, July 7, 2015, and I am still freaking out. I will try to explain this as best as I can without skipping important details. My mind is racing so please bear with me. Today my fiancée and I spent the day with family members about 2 hours from home. We left their house at about 9 p.m. They live pretty much in the middle of nowhere. The roads around there don't have much traffic, especially at night. We come to a large cornfield, no house in sight. A man was standing on the side of the road looking towards the cornfield. He wasn't wearing a shirt, had a dirty/bloody looking rag tied on his upper arm and holding a gun. The speed limit on this road is 30 miles per hour so we weren't driving very fast. As we passed this guy he starts chasing our car. We heard a loud pop noise and realized it was the gun, so my fiancée floored it and tried to get out of there ASAP. About 5 minutes later a truck comes up behind us. I got a little nervous but just assumed I was being paranoid, but nope. This truck starts riding the ass of our car and turning the headlights on high and low beam over and over. No matter how much we sped up, this truck sped up also to ride our ass. There were plenty of times this truck could pass, legally, but didn't. This truck followed us for 30 minutes. As this was going on we were debating if we should pull over, go home, or go to a police station. We make it to a small town and the truck starts to back off a bit. Then once we hit another back road he inched back up to us. Then all of a sudden the truck's headlights turned off but kept following us. I look away for less than a minute to get into my purse to get my phone and I look back and the truck was gone. Neither of us saw where the truck went. So, we decided to drive to a 24-hour grocery store and wait for an hour before heading home. I am still shaking and panicking. I know I should probably go to the police but all we have is a slight description of the man. We couldn't get the license plate number because it was too dark. I'm not even sure if it had one in the front. I'm also afraid the cops won't believe a crazy story like this. My fiancé is keeping his gun next to the bed tonight and I have a knife. But I am still freaked out. Update: we went to the police last night after seeing the truck pass our house 4 times. The police kept us at the police station basically all night. They took a statement and sent a cop to the area that we saw the men to make sure there's not anyone harmed there. They also went to my house and found footprints in the mud and the glass broken on our door window. We had a stained glass window thing on our front door. They haven't told us if they found anyone in the place where we first saw the men. They haven't found the truck or the guy yet, and we are supposed to call 911 immediately if we see the men or truck again. Other than that, not much has been done so far. Cornfields and dirt roads. So, to give you a little background on this situation, I'm from a small town in northern Michigan and there is literally nothing out there but cornfields and dirt roads. It's particularly creepy at all times, even during the day, but you can only imagine how spooky it gets at night. This happened one summer night on a day I would prefer not to remember back when I was in high school. Being from a small town, just about everyone knows everyone. All of your friends live in the area off of some random dirt road that has only 3 or 4 houses every 2 miles, so there isn't too many people to meet. My friend group is a pretty close bunch and we all like to pull pranks on each other. Our favorite jokes involve freaking each other out. Now, as Friday rolls around and our friend Brian informs us that he wants us all to come over his place tonight since his parents are out of town, the rest of us immediately see this as an opportunity to scare the shit out of Brian. Parents out of town. Brian is home alone and there isn't a house nearby for miles. Perfect. Side note, have you ever seen the movie The Strangers? Where 3 random people harass this couple in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, Brian lives in a similar location to that movie. Nothing around you, miles and miles of just corn and dirt. The plan was decided upon by 7 of us. We were going to meet up at a crossroad near Brian's house at 11 p.m. I should mention here that there are no street lights in my town, so the nighttime is pitch black. Park our cars on the side of the road, walk together through the cornfield that leads to his house, ring the doorbell a bunch and then jump out and spook him the best we can. As we were talking about this and polishing out the details, I had a better idea. I should scare my friends that are trying to scare Brian. They will never see it coming. So what did I do? I grabbed an old Darth Maul costume from my brother's closet and went straight to Brian's at 11 instead of meeting up with the group. Sent a quick text that I couldn't make it and they were going to carry out the plan without me, completely oblivious to what awaited them at Brian's. Once I got there in my costume, I decided the best place to scare my friends from would be a nearby bush on the side of his house. I thought I could jump out when I heard them walking up and that this prank would go down in history among our group. So unsuspecting, so ingenious, I'm waiting and time feels like it's moving by so slowly. Maybe it's because I was sitting in a bush board, or maybe it's because when I checked my watch it had been a half hour past when I expected them to show up. Any minute now, I keep telling myself. Any freaking minute now. Just as I'm about to give up and call them, I hear some shuffling out front. These suckers have no idea, this is going to be great, I thought, but then. Boom, boom, boom. Someone is smashing on the garage. Boom, boom, boom. It keeps going. As soon as the banging stops, it sounds like they are trying to lift the garage open from the handle. Obviously it was locked, so they moved over to the window opposite of my bush. Knock, 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 each one more violent than the last. This goes on for about 5 more minutes until all of a sudden it stops. Complete silence. I thought my friends were now waiting for Brian to answer the door, all freaked out, so I perched myself in the bush, ready to pounce out and scream, when all of a sudden my heart dropped. I hear a group of people coming from the cornfield directly behind me, and it's my friends. Laughing and saying, "SHHHHH," as they approach the house. They just got here. They just got here. They just got here, stranger that tried to break into Brian's house, or whatever the hell you were trying to do. Let's not meet. Cornfield game encounter. I come from a family with a lot of kids my age, siblings, cousins, family friends. We are all within 6 years of each other from the group we grew up with, a total of about 15 kids. One of the grandparents of a family friend we were very close with lived in this small town that had a ton of cornfields. It was very Midwest, really nice people, friendly neighbors, all that good stuff. We would go to the grandma's house a lot because their whole family lived in that neighborhood, so our parents would have barbecues and block parties a lot. Us kids would play everywhere, but sometimes we liked to play this game that involved the cornfield. Her house was basically set up where the backyard looked right at this huge cornfield. And to the left and behind that were this creek. We'd walk around the field along the creek and begin the game. This game was really fun because it was kind of like hide and seek but reverse. We'd all kind of spread ourselves out along the creek, and one person would get blindfolded and just run right into the cornfield. You were supposed to zigzag and get as lost as possible. It was just one field, and really easy to get out of, so there was never any real danger to getting lost, but as kids we didn't think that way. Once the person who was sufficiently deep into the cornfield, they'd shout as loud as they could that they were ready, and everyone would shout the person's name until they found their way out. Everyone else would really spread out at this point, some people being on one side of the field by the water and some on the other side. The last time we ever played it, I was I was around 8 years old at the time. I could hear people shouting my name, Catherine, Catherine. I was laughing, running towards the voices of my family. Even though the point was to get out, it was still fun kind of running aimlessly towards different voices in the field, so that's what I did for a little bit before crouching down to take a breather. I could still hear everyone laughing, screaming like kids do when they play, and shouting from a distance. I swear I didn't hear any rustling that was out of the ordinary in a windy cornfield. But looking back, I think I do remember a distinct rustling coming from behind me. All I know is I could hear my friends calling me Catherine. Catherine, when all of a sudden from right behind me, almost directly in my left ear, I hear a man's deep voice say my name, Catherine. Just typing this out, remembering the sound of the voice, completely scares the crap out of me. I book it out of there, I run as fast as I can, screaming at the top of my lungs the entire way, and join everyone back at the creek. I was kind of a dramatic kid, so I don't think anyone really took me that seriously, and I basically forgot about the whole instance. It was just so frightening. I don't think I've ever experienced such complete dread since then. My whole body felt like ice, like someone had dumped a glass of cold water down my spine. I could feel the fear in my fingernails, so, whoever was in the cornfield that day, let's never meet. Men watching us in cornfield. It was about 2000 or 2001, my best friend and I were 13 years old. We lived in a small town in rural Minnesota, about 2,000 people. Out of our friend group, her and I were the only two that lived out in the country. So we understood the boredom that could ensue, but the fun things that would come out of it. Exploring the woods, running around in the cornfields, creating forts, exploring the abandoned house on their property, etc. It was a really fun time for us. One day we decided to take our bikes and ride down some gravel roads. Her little brother tagged along. He was probably about 9 or 10 at the time. We were riding along, laughing, probably picking on her brother, when we see an old shack in one of the corn fields. The corn wasn't fully grown, so we were able to see most of it. We decide to explore it because why not? I'm now 33, so bear with my memory. I don't remember much about the outside, but I do remember what I saw inside, and it still gives me the creeps to this day. We peered inside, and the first thing I noticed were posters on the wall of the room. They were on every wall. There was a different person on every poster, and they looked angry. Some held guns pointed right at you, some were pointing their finger, and it felt like they were pointing right at us with their eyes trained on us. In the center of the floor was a perfectly painted red circle. My friend and I remember a star in the middle, but her little brother just remembers the circle. As we are staring at this creepy scene, I feel like we are being watched, and not by the posters. I look to my right across the gravel road and into the cornfield across from us. Standing in the middle of the field is a man. He's just watching us. He's not waving his arms, not yelling at us, just watching. I alert my friends and we look at him together. I awkwardly wave and he continues to just stand there, no wave back. We are sufficiently creeped, so we jump on our bikes to get away. We are on gravel, which isn't easy to bike on, so it's taking us a while to get going. We bike away and I repeatedly turn around to see if he's still there, and he is still watching us. He barely moved and only turned his body slightly to angle in our direction to keep watching. I still can't get over how he just appeared in the middle of a field like that. Recently, I've been thinking of this, so my friend, her brother, and I started a group chat. We all shared what we remembered and they basically said everything I did above. What I didn't know was that they went back the next day, and everything was gone. Even the red paint on the floor. A week later, whoever owned it donated it to the fire department to be burned. I don't know what was going on in that shack. Some thoughts have been weird rituals, target practice for some militia dude, or just some weird creepy guy who has poor taste in decor. Whatever it was, it still weirds me out to this day.